The massive alien ship hung in Earth's orbit like a silver teardrop. It had arrived 3 days ago without warning, and the world had held its breath ever since. Now, Captain Laura Davis stood on the bridge of the U.S. horizon, her palms slightly damp as she waited for the transmission. "Signal coming through, Captain," said Officer Greg Mills, his voice steady despite the tension. Laura nodded. On screen. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a tall, blue-skinned being with large, pupil-less eyes. The alien's face was narrow and elegant, with small ridges where eyebrows would be on a human. "Greetings, Earth representative. I am Ambassador Zortek of the Cerulean Dominion. We come in peace and with an invitation." Laura stepped forward. "I am Captain Laura Davis of the United Earth Fleet. We welcome you and thank you for your peaceful approach." The alien's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. "We have observed your world for some time. Your species has advanced quickly, despite your limitations." Limitations. Laura kept her expression neutral. "Your lifespans," Zortek said simply. "The average Cerulean lives approximately 500 of your Earth years. It gives us time to truly master our sciences, arts, and philosophical understanding." Laura felt a small prick of annoyance, but maintained her diplomatic smile. Different species evolve different advantages. Indeed, the alien's tone was polite, but carried an undercurrent of superiority. "We would like to invite Earth to join the Galactic Coalition, a gathering of advanced species who share knowledge and resources." The bridge crew exchanged excited glances. This was beyond what anyone had hoped for from first contact. "We would be honored," Laura replied. "Perhaps we could meet in person to discuss the details." "Certainly. We have prepared chambers on our vessel that will accommodate your biological needs. You may bring a small delegation." 6 hours later, Laura led a team of 5 onto the alien ship. Dr. Peter Young, the team's xenobiologist, couldn't hide his excitement as they were escorted through gleaming corridors by tall Cerulean guards. "Their technology is at least 2 centuries beyond ours," he whispered to Laura. They entered a large, circular room where several Ceruleans waited, seated around a crescent-shaped table. Ambassador Zortek stood and gestured to empty seats. "Please join us. We have much to discuss about Earth's potential membership in our coalition." As the humans took their seats, Laura noticed subtle differences among the Ceruleans. Some had darker blue skin, others lighter. Their clothing seemed to indicate rank or profession. "Before we begin," said a female Cerulean with silver markings on her face, "we should introduce ourselves properly. I am Director Shren, head of the Coalition Council. I have lived for 452 Earth years." Each Cerulean followed with similar introductions, all emphasizing their impressive ages: 376 years, 412 years, and so on. When it was the humans' turn, Laura could sense the alien's polite condescension. "I am Captain Laura Davis. I've served in Earth's fleet for 14 years. I am 35 years old." She saw the aliens exchange glances. One of them, a scientist named Velnar, leaned forward. "Fascinating. And you are in a position of leadership at such a young age. Your kind must develop quickly to compensate for your brief existence." Dr. Young cleared his throat. "I'm 58, he offered, as if trying to impress them with what was, by human standards, a respectable age. Director Shren nodded kindly, like watching mayflies dance, beautiful in its brevity. Laura felt her face warm but kept her voice level. "We may not have centuries, but we make good use of the time we have." "Of course," Zortek said smoothly. "Now, regarding membership in the Coalition, we are particularly interested in studying human biology. Your rapid development and neural plasticity are quite remarkable, even if your longevity is unfortunate." As the meeting continued, Laura listened carefully to the terms being offered. The technology and knowledge Earth would gain were incredible opportunities, but something in the Ceruleans' attitude bothered her. They spoke not as equals, but as adults humoring clever children. By the end of the meeting, preliminary agreements were made. Earth would begin the process of joining the Galactic Coalition. But as Laura and her team prepared to return to their ship, she couldn't shake the feeling that the Cyrillians weren't sharing everything. "Is it just me?" she asked Dr. Young quietly. "Or do they seem awfully interested in our lifespans?" "They're probably just curious," he replied. "Imagine meeting a species that only lived for a single one of your years. Wouldn't you be fascinated too?" Laura nodded, but the doubt remained. As Ambassador Zortek bid them farewell, his final words lingered in her mind. "We look forward to a productive relationship with Earth, Captain Davis. Perhaps we can even help your kind overcome some of your temporal challenges." 6 months had passed since first contact. Earth buzzed with excitement about joining the Galactic Coalition. News screens everywhere showed images of Cyrillian ships and technology. Children played with toy aliens, and scientists worked day and night studying the small bits of technology the Cyrillians had shared. Laura Davis stood in her apartment, staring at the formal invitation on her desk. The Cyrillians had requested her presence at the upcoming Galactic Coalition Summit. She was to bring one scientific advisor. "You should take me," said a voice behind her. Laura turned to see Dr. Alan West. At 70 years old, he was one of Earth's leading experts on human longevity. His white hair and lined face showed his age, but his eyes were sharp and clear. "They specifically asked for someone who could discuss human biology," Laura said. "And you're the best we have." Ellen smiled. "Plus, I'm old. Might impress them a bit more." 2 weeks later, their ship docked at the massive space station orbiting the Cyrillian homeworld. The station was a marvel of engineering, a spinning wheel of silver and glass, large enough to hold a small city. A tall Cyrillian greeted them at the airlock. "Captain Davis, Dr. West, welcome to Harmony Station. I am Kelnar, your guide during your stay." Kelnar was not Cyrillian but Neveri, another alien species with purple-tinted skin and 4 small horns on their forehead. They explained that the Neveri lived about 350 years on average. "Still much longer than humans," Alan remarked with a smile. "But the Cyrillians probably think you're practically children too." Kelnar's expression shifted slightly. "The Cyrillians do take great pride in their longevity. It affects their view of other species." As they walked through the station, Laura and Alan saw aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some were tall and thin, others short and wide. Some had scales, others fur, and a few seemed to be made of something like living crystal. "How many species are in the coalition?" Laura asked. 27 currently," said Kelnar. "The Cyrillians were among the founders 3,000 years ago. They use lifespan as a measure of worth, though they would never admit it openly." Laura frowned. "That seems like a narrow way to judge." "Indeed," Kelnar replied quietly. "Yet it has become tradition." They arrived at a large meeting hall where hundreds of aliens mingled. Many turned to stare at the humans, some with curiosity, others with what seemed like pity. Ambassador Zortek approached, arms spread wide in greeting. "Captain Davis, and this must be your scientific advisor. Welcome to the heart of civilization." Dr. Alan West. Alan introduced himself, extending a hand which the Cyrillian studied briefly before shaking. 70 Earth years, Alan added with a twinkle in his eye. "Practically ancient by our standards." Zortek's smile faltered for just a moment. "Ah yes, we have prepared special accommodations for you, knowing your species' need for frequent rest periods." Laura felt the same condescension she had noticed during their first meeting. "We appreciate your thoughtfulness, but standard quarters will be fine." As the reception continued, Alan circulated through the crowd, speaking with scientists from various species. Laura noticed how carefully he observed and asked questions. Meanwhile, she found herself in conversation with a group of diplomats. "Your species has achieved much in such brief lives," said a crystal-like being who introduced herself as Ambassador Trill of the Luminary. 300 years ago, you were still using combustion engines." "Necessity drives innovation," Laura replied. "When time is limited, you learn not to waste it." Later that evening, in their private quarters, Alan shared what he had learned. The Coalition has a clear hierarchy based on lifespan, he said. Species live anywhere from 80 to 500 years, and status correlates directly with longevity. Laura sighed. Did you learn anything useful about their biology? Alan's eyes lit up. Oh yes, I collected several biological readings secretly. There's something very strange about how these species age compared to humans. Strange how? Laura asked. Alan pulled out a small device showing various charts. Their telomere degradation is completely different from ours. It's almost as if a soft chime interrupted them, signaling someone at their door. Kelnar stood outside, looking nervous. I apologize for the late visit, but there's something you humans should know before the summit begins tomorrow. The Cerulans have plans for your species, and you may not like what they have in mind. Laura and Alan exchanged worried glances before inviting Kelnar inside their quarters. The Navari alien seemed nervous, constantly checking the doorway as if afraid of being overheard. What do you mean by plans? Laura asked once they were seated. Kelnar lowered their voice. The Cerulans did not invite Earth to join the Coalition out of generosity. They are fascinated by how humans accomplish so much in such short lives. They want to study you, harvest your genetic material. Alan leaned forward. That fits with what I've discovered. Something doesn't add up about our comparative biology. What have you found? Kelnar asked. Alan pulled up his datapad and showed them side-by-side images of cellular structures. These are Cerulan cells, and these are human cells. Notice anything strange? Laura studied the images. The human cells look restricted somehow. Exactly, Alan said, his eyes bright with excitement. It's like our cells are programmed to deteriorate. Not just normal aging, but an artificial limitation. Kelnar nodded slowly. There are legends among some Coalition species, stories of a time when humans lived much longer. The next morning, the official summit began. Representatives from all 27 species gathered in a massive circular chamber. Laura and Alan sat at the small Earth section, feeling the curious stares of hundreds of aliens. During a break in proceedings, Alan slipped away to the medical research area. Using the access code Kelnar had provided, he entered a restricted laboratory. Inside, he found advanced equipment far beyond Earth technology. His hands moved quickly over the controls, running tests on the samples he had collected. Hours passed as he worked, forgetting the time as the data built up on his screen. This can't be right, he muttered, running the test again. But the results were the same. Meanwhile, Laura was stuck in diplomatic meetings. Ambassador Zortek spoke at length about the benefits Earth would receive from joining the Coalition, but his words now carried a hidden meaning Laura hadn't noticed before. We believe humans have great untapped potential, the Cerulan said smoothly. With our guidance, your species could evolve beyond its current limitations. And what would you want in return? Laura asked directly. Zortek smiled thinly. Your unique perspective. Your biological insights. When the day's meetings finally ended, Laura hurried back to find Alan. She found him still in the lab, surrounded by holographic displays of DNA strands. Laura, this is incredible, he said without looking up. Human DNA contains artificial limiters. We're designed to die young. What are you talking about? Alan pointed to a spiraling pattern in the hologram. This is human DNA. And these markers here, they're synthetic, placed there deliberately. Laura stared at the display. Are you saying someone engineered humans to have short lives? Not just someone. An advanced species, thousands of years ago. They put locks in our genetic code to prevent us from living longer. Before Laura could respond, the lab door slid open. A human man stood there, tall, lean, with short gray hair. He looked about 60 years old, with deeply tanned skin and alert blue eyes. You're on the right track, Doctor, the man said in a calm voice. But there's much more to the story. Who are you? Laura demanded. "How did you get in here?" The man smiled. "My name is John Smith. Most Cerealans think I'm one of their xenobiologists studying human culture. In reality, I've been studying them for decades." Ellen looked confused. "You're a human spy." "I'm just a human," John replied, "but a somewhat unusual one. You see, I was born in 1840. Earth years, that is." Laura felt her heart skip. "That's impossible. You'd be over 300 years old." 340, John corrected. "And I think it's time you both learned why the Cerealans are really so interested in humans." Laura stared at John Smith with disbelief. 340 years. "That's impossible." "Please, sit down," John said, gesturing to the lab chairs. "We don't have much time before someone notices we're here." Alan's scientific curiosity overcame his shock. "How have you lived so long? Is it some kind of technology?" "No technology," John replied. "Just the natural human lifespan when you remove the artificial limits." John walked to the holographic display and pointed to the DNA strands Alan had been studying. "These markers you found are called terminators by those who created them. They were placed in human DNA roughly 50,000 years ago by a species known as the precursors." "Precursors?" Laura asked. "An ancient race that saw the potential in early humans and feared it," John explained. "They traveled the galaxy long before the Cerealans formed their coalition. They engineered many species, including the Cerealans themselves." Ellen leaned forward, fascinated. "Why would they limit human lifespans?" "Control," John said simply. "The precursors' tests showed that humans learn and adapt faster than any species they had encountered. They predicted that with lifespans similar to other advanced species, humans would quickly outpace and possibly dominate them." Laura frowned. "So they made us die young to keep us weak." "Exactly. They wanted humans to develop, but slowly. A species focused on short-term survival doesn't look to the stars as quickly." "But you've somehow bypassed these limiters?" Ellen asked. John nodded. "Through years of practice, meditation, and mental discipline, I discovered how to suppress some of the Terminator genes through sheer mental control." "That's hard to believe," Laura said skeptically. "The mind-body connection is stronger than most humans realize," John replied. "Many of the aging mechanisms are triggered by stress hormones and inflammation that can be controlled through mental states." Ellen was already typing notes into his datapad. "This aligns with my research back on Earth. We've known that meditation and mindfulness affect cellular aging, but I never imagined it could extend life by centuries." "I haven't stopped aging completely," John clarified. "Just slowed it dramatically. And I'm not the only one. Throughout human history, there have been others who discovered similar techniques. The legends of immortal masters in ancient cultures," Ellen whispered. "They might have been real." John nodded. "Some lived for centuries. Most stayed hidden to avoid persecution or exploitation." Laura was still processing everything. "Why are you telling us this now?" "Because the Cerealans have figured it out," John said gravely. "They've studied human remains and living subjects for decades. They know about the terminators in our DNA, and they've realized what humans could become without them." "And that scares them," Laura guessed. "Terrifies them," John corrected. "The Cerealan civilization is built on their position at the top of the longevity hierarchy. If humans could live for centuries or even millennia while maintaining our rate of innovation and adaptation, we'd surpass them," Alan finished. "So what do they want from us?" Laura asked. "They want to study humans to find a way to maintain the status quo. They're trying to develop methods to ensure human lifespans remain short without revealing the truth." Alan looked horrified. "That's genocide." "In slow motion, yes," John agreed. "They don't want to kill humans. They just want to ensure we never reach our potential." "How do we stop them?" Laura asked. "We don't have to stop them," John smiled slightly. "We just have to show the rest of the coalition what humans are truly capable of. And I believe Dr. West's research combined with what I've learned over my long life, might be the key. Alan's eyes widened with understanding. You think we can reverse the Terminators, free humanity from these genetic locks? I think we can try, John said. But we'll need to be careful. If the Ceruleans realize what we're doing, they'll stop us, Laura finished grimly. Or try to, John replied with a confident smile that suggested he had survived worse threats over his long lifetime. The main assembly hall of the Galactic Coalition was filled with representatives from all 27 member species. Laura, Alan, and John sat at the small Earth section, watching as various aliens took turns addressing the assembly. Ambassador Zortek stood at the central podium, his blue skin gleaming under the bright lights. And now we come to the matter of Earth's application for membership, he announced. While humans have shown remarkable progress for such a young species, we must consider their developmental stage. A large display behind him lit up with comparative timelines showing human history alongside other species. The human timeline was dramatically shorter. As you can see, Zortek continued, humans have only recently discovered space travel. Their understanding of galactic politics and culture is naturally limited by their brief lifespans. Laura felt her face grow warm as murmurs filled the chamber. Many aliens were nodding in agreement. Some even looked sympathetic, as if pitying the poor, short-lived humans. The average human lives less than 100 Earth years, Zortek said. A mere moment compared to the lifespan of a Cerulean. How can they possibly develop the wisdom and perspective needed for full membership? Laura glanced at John, who gave her a slight nod. It was time. She stood up. Point of order, she called out clearly. The translation devices carried her voice throughout the chamber. Zortek looked surprised. The Earth representative wishes to speak. I do, Laura said, stepping forward to the central floor. I wish to challenge the assumption that lifespan alone determines a species' worth or potential. The chamber grew quiet. This was not the meek acceptance the Ceruleans had expected. Humans may live shorter lives than Ceruleans, Laura continued, but we have learned to make the most of our time. We don't have the luxury of centuries to contemplate each decision. Zortek's expression hardened. That is precisely our concern. Your kind acts hastily, without proper reflection. Does it? Laura countered. Or do we simply work at a different pace? I propose a challenge to this assembly. Alan and John exchanged surprised glances. This wasn't part of their plan. What kind of challenge? Asked Director Shrin from her seat at the Cerulean section. A competition, Laura said confidently. To measure not the length of life, but what can be accomplished within a given time frame. What can each species achieve in a single human generation? 25 Earth years. The assembly erupted in conversation. The idea was novel and intriguing to many. Zortek laughed dismissively. 25 years is barely enough time for a Cerulean to complete basic education. Exactly, Laura replied. Yet in that same time, humans have gone from the first powered flight to landing on our moon, from the first computers to global information networks. A tall, insect-like alien rose from the Trellin section. I find this proposal interesting. Accomplishment density is indeed a fascinating metric. Other representatives began voicing support. The concept appealed to many of the shorter-lived species who had always resented the Ceruleans' age-based hierarchy. Zortek conferred quickly with other Ceruleans before turning back to Laura. And what would this competition entail? 3 categories, Laura proposed. Technological advancement, artistic creation, and diplomatic relations. Each species starts from a comparable baseline in each category. After 25 years, independent judges evaluate what each has accomplished. And the purpose of this exercise? Director Shrin asked coldly. To demonstrate that different species have different strengths, Laura answered. And perhaps to suggest that the Coalition's current hierarchy might not be the only way to measure a civilization's value. The chamber buzzed with excitement. Many species had long chafed under Cerulean dominance, but had never found a way to challenge it directly. Zortek's face showed a mix of anger and calculation. Refusing the challenge would make the Ceruleans appear afraid. Accepting it might undermine their status. Finally, he spoke. "We accept your challenge, human, not because we doubt the outcome, but to show you the wisdom that comes with age. When you fail, perhaps your kind will finally understand your proper place in the galactic order." Laura met his gaze steadily. "And if we succeed, then Earth will have earned its place at the table," he replied. "Though I assure you, that outcome is impossible." News of the challenge spread across Earth like wildfire. Governments, companies, and researchers worldwide mobilized with a sense of urgency that surprised even Laura. Humans, it seemed, thrived on deadlines and competition. 6 months into the challenge, Laura stood in a massive new research facility built specifically for unlocking human potential. Dr. Alan West led a team of the world's best geneticists, neurologists, and longevity experts. John Smith provided guidance based on his centuries of experience. "The first volunteers are responding well to the initial treatments," Alan reported as they walked through the lab. Men and women in comfortable rooms practiced the mental techniques John had refined over his long life, while machines monitored their cellular activity. "How soon until we see results?" Laura asked. "We already are," John said with quiet pride. "Look at this." He showed her a tablet displaying brain scans of a volunteer named Steve Rogers, a 40-year-old former soldier. The images showed unusual activity in areas typically dormant in human brains. "Steve has maintained continuous consciousness for 72 hours without fatigue," Alan explained. "No stimulants, no side effects. His mind simply doesn't need to shut down for rest anymore." Laura was amazed. "And the genetic locks?" "We're making progress," Alan said. "We've identified 9 key terminator sequences. John's mental techniques can suppress 3 of them. Our medical approach has neutralized 2 more. That leaves 4 still active. Even with just those changes, these volunteers could live to be 150, maybe 200 years, John added. Meanwhile, in space, human ships were making contact with species beyond the Coalition. Earth diplomats, free from Cerulean oversight, discovered many civilizations that had been ignored or dismissed by the Coalition due to their shorter lifespans. The Vril, a species living only 40 years on average, had developed remarkable mathematical theories. The Durin, with their 60-year lives, had pioneered transportation technology far beyond what the Ceruleans used. Earth began forming alliances, creating a network of cooperation outside the Coalition's hierarchy. On the artistic front, humans produced works at an astonishing pace. New forms of music, literature, and visual art emerged monthly. While Cerulean artists might spend decades perfecting a single sculpture, human artists created, failed, learned, and created again in rapid cycles of innovation. "They're getting nervous," Kelnar told Laura during a secret meeting 1 year into the challenge. The Navari had become a valuable ally, providing information about Cerulean activities. The Coalition Council receives regular reports on human progress. Some Ceruleans are pushing to end the challenge early. "On what grounds?" Laura asked. "They claim it's disruptive to galactic stability," Kelnar replied. "In truth, they fear the outcome. Other species are watching closely, especially those with shorter lifespans. The hierarchy is already beginning to crack." 2 years into the challenge, the first breakthrough came. A team led by Alan and John successfully disabled all 9 terminator sequences in a lab setting. The implications were enormous. "This isn't just about living longer," Alan explained to world leaders in a secure video conference. "These genetic locks also limited human cognitive potential. Without them, we could think faster, learn quicker, remember more." Not everyone on Earth welcomed these developments. Religious groups questioned the ethics of changing what some saw as humanity's natural lifespan. Security experts worried about the social impact of some humans living drastically longer than others. But the research continued, driven by both scientific curiosity and the ticking clock of the challenge. The Ceriolans watched with growing concern as humans achieved in months what typically took them years. 3 years into the challenge, Ambassador Zortek requested an urgent meeting with Laura. His normally composed demeanor was visibly strained. "We have received disturbing reports about genetic experiments on Earth," he said without preamble. "The Coalition cannot allow potentially dangerous alterations to member species." Laura kept her expression neutral. "The challenge includes technological advancement. We're simply exploring our potential, as any species would." "There are limits," Zortek insisted. "Some knowledge is too dangerous." "Too dangerous for whom?" Laura asked quietly. "For humans, or for those who prefer to keep us in our place." 12 years into the challenge, Earth had changed dramatically. The first generation of volunteers with fully deactivated genetic locks showed remarkable abilities. They needed only 2 hours of sleep, could recall information with perfect clarity, and their bodies showed no signs of aging. Dr. Alan West, now 82 years old, had undergone the treatment himself. He now looked 60, with his wrinkles smoothing out and gray hair darkening. His mind worked faster than ever, leading to breakthroughs weekly. In his main laboratory, Alan bent over a microscope while Laura watched. She had chosen not to receive the treatments yet, wanting to lead Earth through the challenge with a clear focus on all humanity, not just her own longevity. "We've reached the halfway point of the challenge," Laura said. "The Coalition representatives will be arriving next week for the midpoint assessment." Alan looked up from his work, eyes bright with excitement. "Perfect timing. We've just made the breakthrough we've been waiting for." He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared showing a complex DNA structure. "This is what I call complete memory anchoring. It's the final piece of the puzzle." "Memory anchoring?" Laura asked. "John always said that mental discipline was key to his longevity." Alan explained. "Now we know why. The brain creates a complete memory pattern that serves as a template for the body. It remembers its optimal state and works constantly to return to it." "Like a computer backup," Laura suggested. "Similar, but more dynamic. Our volunteers can now consciously direct this process. They can heal injuries in days that would take months for regular humans. And the effects on aging are profound." John Smith entered the lab, now looking noticeably younger than when they had first met him. The treatments had reversed some of his aging. "The Ceriolans won't like this," he warned. "I just received word from Kellinar. Their spies have learned about our breakthrough. They're planning to sabotage the midpoint assessment." Laura frowned. "How?" "They'll claim our genetic modifications violate Coalition ethics rules," John explained. "They want to disqualify Earth from the challenge entirely." "Can they do that?" Alan asked. "They'll try," Laura said grimly. "We need to prepare our defense." The next day, an emergency meeting was called at Earth's Coalition Embassy. Representatives from 15 allied species had gathered, many from the shorter-lived civilizations that had formed partnerships with humans. "The Ceriolans claim we've broken the rules," Laura told the assembled aliens. "But the challenge was about achievement density, about what could be accomplished in 25 years. We've simply focused on our greatest limitation first." Ambassador Rilta of the Vril stood up. The small, gray-skinned alien had a lifespan of only 40 years, but possessed a brilliant mind. "The Vril support Earth. The Ceriolans fear that their position is threatened. This is not about rules, but about power." Other representatives voiced their agreement. The coalition of shorter-lived species had grown powerful over the past decade, united by their shared resentment of Ceriolan dominance. The day of the midpoint assessment arrived. The Great Hall of Earth's United Nations had been prepared to host the coalition representatives. Ceriolan officials arrived first, led by Director Shrin herself. "Captain Davis," she greeted Laura coldly. "We have concerns about Earth's methods in this challenge." "All will be addressed during the formal assessment," Laura replied politely. When all representatives were seated, Alan took the central stage. Despite the tension, he looked confident and energized. "Honored representatives," he began. 12.5 years ago, humans accepted a challenge to show what could be accomplished within a single generation. Today, I present our most significant achievement. He gestured, and a group of 20 humans of various ages entered the hall. They included the first volunteers, now showing visible signs of enhanced vitality. These individuals represent the future of humanity. Alan continued. Through our research, we have discovered that humans were genetically altered thousands of years ago by the species you know as the precursors. Our natural lifespan was artificially shortened. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Director Shrin's face darkened with anger. We have now reversed this tampering, Alan announced. These volunteers are the first humans in 50,000 years to live as nature intended. Their potential lifespan, perhaps 1,000 years or more. The final assessment day arrived. 25 years had passed since Laura challenged the coalition. Representatives from all member species gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall on Harmony Station. The room hummed with anticipation. The coalition had changed dramatically during the challenge years. The rigid hierarchy based on lifespan had crumbled as humans demonstrated what could be achieved in a single generation. Many shorter-lived species had risen to new prominence through their alliances with Earth. Laura stood at the Earth section, flanked by Alan and John. At 70 years old, her hair was now silver, but she had remained the calm, determined face of humanity throughout the challenge. She had finally agreed to undergo the longevity treatment 2 years ago, but the changes were subtle: a slight smoothing of wrinkles, increased energy, and sharper mental clarity. Director Shrin rose to begin the proceedings. The Cerulean leader looked exactly as she had 25 years ago, a reminder of their naturally long lives. We gather today to conclude the challenge proposed by Earth, she announced. Each category will be evaluated by independent judges from neutral species. The technological assessment came first. Earth presented its achievements. Faster-than-light travel developed through cooperation with the Vril mathematicians, clean energy systems that had eliminated pollution, and most importantly, the unlocking of human genetic potential. Humanity has not only extended its lifespan, but has fundamentally changed its relationship with time. Alan explained to the assembly. We now have the option to live for centuries while maintaining our natural rate of innovation. The artistic assessment followed. Human artists had created new art forms by blending traditions from Earth with techniques from other worlds. Their works were displayed throughout the station. Music that could be felt as well as heard, interactive sculptures that responded to emotions, and literature that could be experienced differently by each species. Finally came the diplomatic assessment. Laura presented Earth's network of alliances and cooperative projects spanning 17 species. While the Ceruleans had maintained their insular approach, humans had built bridges across the galaxy. In 25 years, Laura concluded, Earth has gone from an isolated world to the center of a thriving network of cooperation. We have shown that species with different lifespans can work together as equals, each contributing their unique perspectives. The judges retired to consider their verdict. An hour later, they returned. In the category of technological advancement, announced the chief judge, a neutral Solarian, Earth has demonstrated unprecedented achievement density. Their accomplishments in 25 years surpass what the Ceruleans achieved in 100 years during a comparable developmental stage. Similar verdicts followed for the other categories. By every measure, humans had won the challenge. Laura rose to address the assembly one final time. 25 years ago, I stood before you as a representative of a species pitied for our brief lives. Today, I stand before you with a different message. Time is not about quantity, but about how we use it. She gestured to John Smith, who stepped forward. This human has lived for over 365 years, not through artificial means, but by unlocking the potential that was always within us, a potential that was hidden through genetic tampering. John spoke clearly. I am not unique. All humans now have this potential, but we have learned something important from our shorter lives, the value of urgency, of making each moment matter. Director Shrin stepped forward, her expression serious. but no longer condescending. The Coalition acknowledges Earth's victory in this challenge. The hierarchy based solely on lifespan is officially disbanded. All species will now be valued for their unique contributions. As the assembly erupted in applause, Laura turned to Alan and John with a smile. "What now?" she asked. "With centuries ahead of us, what will humanity do next?" John looked out at the stars visible through the station's great windows. "That's the beauty of it. We have time to explore the entire galaxy, but we'll do it with the same passion and urgency we've always had." Ellen nodded in agreement. The Ceruleans thought time was about waiting. We showed them it's about doing. Laura watched as representatives from many species approached to offer congratulations and propose new joint ventures. The future stretched before humanity, not just longer now, but filled with limitless possibilities. "I wonder what we'll accomplish in the next 25 years, she said softly. "Let's find out," John replied with a smile that held centuries of wisdom.